So be sure your name's on it. Remember, you will have to turn this in. It should benefit you. All right, I can multiply rational numbers.
No, I cannot.
So, looking across these diagonals, the 1 and 8 do not share any common factors that aren't 1, right? The 4 and the 3 do not share any common factors either. So we can't simplify before we multiply. We're simply going to multiply straight across. So we're saying 1 times 3 over 4 times 8. Well, what's 1 times 3?
3.
And what's 4 times 8? 32. Do 3 and 32 share any common factors? No, they do not. We were not expecting them to because their factors didn't share any common factors.
Oh, wait, is it?
So here is where we end.
Oh.
Now, before we can multiply number 2, we have to change the mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we're taking a whole number, 1 times 10, plus the numerator, which in this case is 1, all over the same denominator. What's 1 times 10? 10 plus 1 is 11. So we have negative 11 tenths times 2/5. Well, 5 and 11 don't have anything in common, but what do 2 and 10 have in common? 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. Now I can multiply across. Now I have negative 11 times 1 and 5 times 5. What's negative 11 times 1? So I have negative 11, and what's 5 times 5? 25.
Yeah.
Well, yours should be done, right?
I already did mine.
You had a couple of days to complete this. All right. Now here we have 2 mixed numbers. I'm going to use this space up here because I have to change these both into improper. So I'm saying whole number times the denominator, 3 times 3, plus the numerator, all over the denominator. What's 3 times 3? 9. Plus 1. What's 9 plus 1? 10. So I have 10/3, and it is negative in this case. Here, I have my whole number, which is 4, times my denominator, which is 2, plus my numerator. A lot of 1 numerators here. All over 2. What's 4 times 2? 8. What's 8 plus 1? 9. 9 halves. So here, guys, I have negative times a negative. Is my answer going to be positive or negative? Positive. So I'm just going to get rid of my signs and say 10/3 times 9 halves. Do you guys see where I got the 10/3 and the 9 halves from?
No.
I changed my mixed number into an improper fraction. And we do that, Tanner. You said no, and then you did not pay any attention to me just now. And then we take our whole number times our denominator, so 3 times 3, plus our numerator to get our improper fraction. And that's what we did here too. We took our whole number times our denominator, plus our numerator, all over the same denominator for our improper fraction. You guys need to practice that process. It needs to become quick and second nature. Now, you could just multiply across the top, across the bottom. but you'll have to simplify your product, your answer, right? So it's often easier to look across your diagonals. The 10 and the 2, I notice they're both even, so I can divide them both by 2. What's 10 divided by 2? What's 2 divided by 2? Excellent. What about 3 and 9? What common factor do they share? 3. What's 3 divided by 3? And what's 9 divided by 3? Excellent. Now I literally have across the top 5 times 3 and 1 times 1. What's 5 times 3?
15 over 1.
Yes. Anything divided by 1 is just that, right? They get all 15 if they have 15 pieces of candy divided by one person. Make sure you're simplifying your answers. Question on 1, 2, or 3. Those all kind of belong together. Remember, positive times a positive. When our signs are the same, it's positive. Our answer is positive. When our signs are different, our answer is negative. When our signs are the same, our answer is positive. So be careful of your integer rules too. All right, now dividing. It's just like multiplication, except we have to do a prior step. We have to keep, what do we say, Kentucky chicken fried? Change, flip. So when we divide, we keep our first fraction. So I'm going to rewrite my first fraction. We change division to multiplication. And we flip our second fraction. So what was on the bottom, on the top rather, goes to the bottom. It was on the bottom, goes to the top. So our 8 goes to the top, our 3 goes to the bottom. The nice thing about this is now we have common factors. 1 and 3, they only have 1 in common, but what about 4 and 8? 4. 4 divided by 4 is 8 divided by 4 is. So now I'm multiplying across. I have 1 times 2 on the top. I have 1 times 3 on the bottom. 1 times anything is that anything. That's it.
I understand those, but I don't understand the multiply rational numbers.
That's what we just did, is multiplied rational numbers. Just now. That's what we did. I don't understand.
Well, the one at the top.
You have to change to improper. You don't like those. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you have to learn how to do it, right? That's a process that you need to know. Now, I have to write -12. I can't keep that as a whole number. I have to change it to a fraction. How would I write -12 as a fraction? Any whole number, I can put what on the bottom of my fraction? Not 0, that would be undefined. 1. I can put 1 there. So I would have -12 over 1. Now I'm going to keep, so I'm keeping that. I'm changing to multiplication, and I have to flip my fraction. So now the 3 is going to the top, the 2 is going to the bottom. So I would probably divide first, take out a factor of what from 2 and 12? They're even, so I can divide them both by 2. What's 12 divided by 2? 6. 2 divided by 2 is 1. What is 6 times 3? 18, and I have negative times a negative, so it's staying positive. 18 over 1 is the same as 18. I did skip this in between step. 6 times 3 over 1 times 1, sorry. That would go in between here. That's how I got the 18 and the 1. All right, now here's where a lot of you are getting stuck, right? Changing to improper. This whole number times the denominator. So 6 times what? 2. Plus 1. is 13. Good. So here I have 13 over, what is my denominator? We're sticking with the 2. Same thing here. We have whole number times the denominator. So what would I do? Maybe don't talk to each other. Maybe pay attention if you don't understand it. 5 times 5 plus 1 all over this 5. Good. So 5 times 5 is 25 plus 1 is 26 over that 5. So, yeah, why don't you? So this is divided by negative 26 over 5, but I can't do anything yet, right? The only thing I know how to do is multiply fractions. So I have to keep the first, change to multiplication, and flip the second. Well, 5 and 2 don't share any common factors besides 1. What about 13 and 26? 13, right? That will make this much nicer. So 13 divided by itself is 1. 26 divided by 13 is 2. If you do not know these, you have to look at your what? Multiplication table. Learn to use your multiplication table. Learn to use your multiplication facts. Right? If you don't have your multiplication facts, daily multiplication flashcards. So I would say 13. Does it share anything with 26? Yes. Itself. So I would divide it by 13 to get 2. Now I'm multiplying. What's 1 times negative 5? Negative 5. And what is 2 times 2?
4.
Can I leave it like this? No, you need to simplify. Anytime my numerator is bigger than my denominator, I have to simplify. I'm asking, how many groups of 4 can I take out of 5? 1. So I have negative 1, and one group is 4, so 5 minus 4 would be what? 1 more remaining. So improper or mixed to improper back to mixed, that's the biggest challenge, I think, for many of you. All right, these next 2 you have to do as fractions as well. Because 2/3 is a repeating decimal, it's not terminating. So you have 1/4. Remember, we always rewrite parentheses in place of our letters. And then we put in our numbers here. So negative 2/3. How would I say this decimal? I would say 3, and then the place value it's in. It's in the 10th place. So couldn't I rewrite that as a fraction directly? What would go on the top? 3 over 10. Now this is actually pretty nice. Looking across your diagonals, if I take a factor of 3 out of both the top and the bottom, and I can take a factor of 2 out of both the top and the bottom. So now this is really like 1 times negative 1, right? Because this one was negative, times 1 on top, and 2 times 1 times 10 on the bottom. So 1 times 1 times 1 is just simply negative 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 10 is 20. That's what I would do there. Oops. If you didn't go across, that's fine too. 1 times negative 2 times 3 on the top 4 times 3 times 10. You'll eventually have to simplify, right? This is a negative 6. And this would be 120. So if I divide them both by 6, I should get this. So be sure you know how to simplify or cross cancel one way or the other. We'll get you the simplified answer. Now this is a little weird. I have something divided by something. So in place of h, I would put negative 2/3. And we already changed y to a fraction 2. I would put 3/10. What does this fraction bar mean? Divide. So this is really negative 2/3, Tanner, divided by 3/10. I read it from top to bottom and rewrite it horizontally. Now I have to keep the first, change to multiplication, and flip the second. This one's not very nice, right? This is negative 2 times 10 and 3 times 3. What's negative 2 times 10? Negative 20. It makes me really grumpy when you need extra work and extra assistance, and right now you're choosing to talk. 3 times 3 is 9. How many groups of 9 can I take out of 20? 2 whole groups, which is 18. What's 20 minus 18? 2 out of the same denominator, and our answer is negative. Always know what your answer sign is going to be, and before you even start, right? Negative divided by a positive, you should know you're going to end with negative. You need to show all this work. All right, do we need some more review, you think?
No.
All right, go ahead and turn your paper over. I will help you review a tab more. Remember, we're always going to simplify and review. Try and be neat. Try and show your work. Remember, this is something you can use on the quiz, which looks like we should wait till tomorrow. So if you guys are focused right now, we can wait. All right, so let's do one like we just did, where we have 1/2 AB. So if I'm writing this, should you be writing this? Yes. When A equals 1/4 and B equals negative 2/3. What's our first step? What do we need to do? Good. We need to rewrite the problem. What are we putting in place of our letters? Parentheses. We're putting parentheses in place of our letters. That's our first step. So we're rewriting our problem with parentheses in place of our letters. Then we're going to put in what A equals into this one and what B equals into this one. What do parentheses mean? What operation does that denote? We're multiplying, not that it's first. It doesn't need to be done first. Parentheses and dots all show multiplication. When we have a number in parentheses next to another number, that means we're multiplying them. All right, so the only factor I have that's not 1 on the top is this 2. Can I cancel out 2 2's? A 2 from the top and a 2 from the bottom. So this pretty much goes away. I'm left with 1 times negative 1, which is what? What's 1 times negative 1? Negative 1. What is 4 times 3? 12. All right. Show this work. Do this. Please, I'm begging you. All right, let's go back to kind of an easy one like we started with. -5/7. Not right now. No, we're reviewing. Guys, you need to be able to wait just a few more minutes. We're just going to do a few more problems. I'm trying to help you for tomorrow. Trust me. Times 1/6. Do these share any common factors across the diagonals? No, so I'm simply multiplying across the top, multiplying across the bottom. I'm crying inside. -5 times 1 is -5. 7 times 6 is what? 42. That's it. We need to remember how to do those things. Yes, you should have had your review done. Right?
I'm on the back.
Why are you yelling at me? You had the same complaints when we were on the other side. You guys need to practice your writing so you can write quickly, right? Are we good? Ready to move? All right, 2 1/5 times -5/6. Before we can do this problem, what do we need to do? We can't use this mixed number. We have to change it to be improper. So we say the whole number times the bottom, which is what? What's 2 times 5?
10, 11.
10, good. Plus that 1 makes 11/5 times -5/6. There's Kleenex right behind you if you need it. All right, we're going to take out a factor of what? 5. So this is a -1 and a 1. 11 times -1. -11. 1 times 6 is 6. How many groups of 6 can I take from 11? 1 whole. So which would be 6. What's 11 minus 6? 5. So 1 and 5/6, and my answer is negative. All right. I want to do one more from that section. And this, I just don't want you to get thrown off when you see a decimal, guys. 10 1/10 times 3/5. If you know how to say this as 10 1/10, you should know how to write it, right? So this is kind of an outrageous improper fraction, I would say. So 10 times 10 is what? 100 plus that 1, 101. And what's my denominator? 10 times 3/5. So I can't really simplify here, unfortunately. 3 times 1 is 3, times 0 is 0, times 1 is 3. What's 10 times 50? 50. How many groups of 50 could I take out of 303? If you're not sure, you could put this in your calculator. You'll have a decimal answer, but you know that 6 point something, I can take 6 out of there, which is 300. So I have a remainder of 3, which is not simplifiable. Or if you happen to change, this would be 6 6/100. Okay, how about 8 divided by -12/13? What do I have to do first?
Put a 1 under the rule.
Good. I need to change 8 into a fraction, so I'm putting a 1 under it. Then I need to Kentucky chicken fried. Keep, change. What am I changing division to? Multiplication. And I have to flip and use my reciprocal. So I have negative 13/12. Now I would look across my diagonals. What can I divide both 8 and 12 by? 4. 8 divided by 4 is? 12 divided by 4 is? What's 2 times 13? Good, and we know it's negative 26/3. So how many groups of 3 could I take out of 26? 8. So I have negative 8 and 2/3. Excellent. Are these getting easier, more difficult? All right, let's do a division problem. Well, it would be the same if you're not doing anything. I would agree with that. That has 2 that we have to change to improper. We have 2 more that we're going to look at. And then I want you to be sure everything's done and we'll tie up any loose ends. Divided by negative 2 and 1/3. First of all, looking at this, our signs are the same. So our answer is going to be positive or negative? Positive. So whole number times bottom number. What's 3 times 9? 27 plus 4. So I have 31/9 divided by 2 times 3, which is 6, plus a 1 makes 7, and it's over 3. Can I just multiply across now? No, do not forget to keep, change, flip. All right. Looking across this diagonal, what factor can I take out of the 3 and the 9? 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now I'm multiplying across. 31 times 1. And remember, this isn't 9 times 7, it's 3 times 7, which is 21. How many groups of 21 can I take out? 1. We said this was positive, right?
1 and 11.
No, careful. What's 31 minus 21?
10.
10. All right. One more. I can go over the last few too later if you want, but here is C over D. Remember what that fraction bar means? Divided by. When C is equal to 0.8, how would I say that? 8/10, right? And D is equal to negative 1/4. Now, technically, there's 2 ways you can do this, right? How could I write negative 1/4 as a decimal? Uh, 0.25, right? A quarter. And 8/10 I would put as this. So we should be able to do this both by decimal and by fraction. So if we look at the decimals, 0.8 over negative 0.25. Now I'm sure most of you would put this into your calculator. If you needed to, you could divide by 0.25, right? I'm gonna need some more zeros here. When I divide by a decimal, I would have to move these decimals. 1, 2. So I'm bringing up this. So 25 goes into 83 times, which is 75. 5, bring down the 0. 2 times. And my answer would be negative. Did anybody check that in a calculator for me? Negative 3.2. All right, the other way we would do this, if you used your fractions, you would have 8/10 big fraction bar and negative 1/4. Remember that fraction bar means divided by, so I have 8/10 divided by negative 1/4. Keep, change, flip. This is negative, right? I would cancel out a 2, so negative 2 and 5. This becomes 16. Negative 16/5. So this is negative 3 and 1/5. Which is the same as 2/10, right? 1/5 is the same as 2/10. That makes sense. All right, so 2 ways to go about doing this. Do you have to show work tomorrow for full credit? Yes. Do they all need to be done with decimals, with fractions? Yes, pretty much all of them, right? I think the only one that would be acceptable both ways was this one and maybe this one, because 1/10 is terminating fraction. Okay, so make sure you know how to change mixed numbers to improper, improper to mixed, multiplying, dividing. Yes, please use this on the quiz tomorrow. Remember integer rules. When our signs are the same, so negative times a negative and positive times a positive, or negative divided by a negative and positive divided by a positive, our answer is going to be positive. If our signs are different, then our answer is what? Then our answer is negative. So you do need to know the signs. Make sure you have correct signs. Lots to remember. So you got about 15 minutes or so. Be sure you're going back through, making sure your practice is done. You also have time if you need to go in and be working in Alex. Many of you are not getting those points for whatever reason. So you've got some extra time for that today. Be sure you are ready for this quiz tomorrow. There's really no excuse to not be ready at this point. We've gone over, we've retaught. Okay. All right, you guys got this. You got 15 minutes. Use this time wisely. Please do not be up and wandering. Please do something helpful, Alex, if nothing else.